Vladimir Putin's very much aware of the possibility of a coup, bloodless or bloody, against him. He's allegedly obsessed by the overthrow of Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi and desperately wants to avoid that fate. Joining me now is Buck Sexton, former CIA analyst and co-host of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show, along with retired U.S. Marine Johnny Joey Jones. So, Buck, I mean, he could get a bullet in his head, he could get poisoned. He loves poison over there, you know that. Or they could just maybe send him to Siberia. What kind of preparations do you think Putin's made to prevent that?
There are very few people on Earth who spend more time thinking about their personal security than Vladimir Putin. This would be tough. And I know people right now might be thinking a palace coup. Wouldn't that be fantastic? That could possibly end this whole thing. But that, I think, is a distant possibility at best right now. There's simply not enough of the people around Putin who would have suffered pain, nor have the Russian people seen enough in terms of casualties to be willing to deal with the incredible force of the FSB, the Russian Internal Security Service. They're very good at repression, and they're also very good at keeping the big guy in charge. And for anybody around him, and it is true if you look at the academic literature, authoritarians usually do fall by people around them in their orbit, people that they have trusted. But if you come at the king, you best not miss. And if you come at Vladimir Putin, obviously your whole family's in jeopardy. So this is something I think we might see down the line, Jesse, but it'd be far too lucky for him to get pushed aside right now.
Yeah, I agree. It's way too early. But let's just game plan this out, Jones. If they just start chewing up Russian soldiers in a vicious Western-funded insurgency, and the ruble is garbage, and there's lines, and people can't leave the country, and there's chaos on the streets, and the oligarchs, they can't rub two singles together. When does the security state in Russia make a move on Vlad?
Buck's going to know a lot more about this than me, but I tell you, it's not hard to see that Putin's power comes from the power he continues to secure by those around him. The oligarchs aren't suppressed for information. They can spend as much time here as they do in Russia. Their wealth allows them to travel the world. They understand probably more clearly than most of us do who Putin is and the positive and negative effect he has on his country. That's kind of the irony in this, is that the people who are in vast numbers and don't have the resources and are downtrodden the most by a dictator like this have the least amount of information. But when we go after the oligarchs, that's when the tide may get to change. I guess my biggest problem is we can't look at this as a U.S. strategy, right? We can't say, well, he's not going to send nukes because before he does, they're going to kill him themselves. That's not a U.S. strategy. That's not how we defend ourselves. And the fact that we're having to have this conversation because it seems like there's not a lot of other plays among our government, that's what's concerning, and that's what bothers me. I mean, the fact that we're at primetime television and we're looking at, well, maybe they'll kill Putin themselves or get rid of him themselves as a strategy. Isn't that kind of the problem, Jesse? I mean, doesn't that kind of tell you where we are with it?
Yeah, I mean, until he goes after a NATO ally, you just got to let him sink in Ukraine and just wreck their banking system from abroad. That's the only play. So, Buck, you're going to see the president, come into the chamber, and he's going to be shaking hands, and everyone's going to be mugging for the camera and get that shot of them close to him. They can push out in their little pamphlets for re-election, although I don't see why that would even help. What do you think the president has to say to the American people tonight about Ukraine that makes sense to them? Because, yes, we want Russia to die on this hill, and we want a victory for the Ukrainian people. But at what expense? We're getting crushed by high gas prices and high oil prices here, and we're probably going to see a supply chain problem when they can't feed Europe and the Mideast. How does he sell what he's doing in Ukraine as a success?
Jesse, I think he's going to have a lot of trouble selling anything that he's done in the first year or so of the administration as a success. The border, crime, the economy, inflation, you name it. On Ukraine specifically, He said, people can go back and see the video in 2019, Putin doesn't want me to be president. Putin's scared of me. He'll never do anything bad. These are the kind of things that come back to haunt politicians, especially when you're talking about matters of war and peace. This is a president, this is an administration that doesn't see the world as it is and has clearly not outmaneuvered Vladimir Putin diplomatically, not outmaneuvered him in terms of the global chess game that's always underway. And I think that you're going to see tonight Biden try to project strength, perhaps whisper aggressively at people, use the word folks a lot, and generally just project more weakness.
All right, we'll see you tonight. We'll be watching. Thank you, guys.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.